Let's go.
Dr. Rosie Milligan, one of the most sought-after speakers on the circuit today. Her live internet talk show, Express Yourself, is the most provocative, thought-provoking, and talked-about radio show on the internet. There's no holds barred, and Dr. Milligan puts the B in bold. She brings it every Tuesday live at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Rosie has been proclaimed the most provocative female writer of the century. Her books include Satisfying the Black Man and Black Woman Sexually Made Simple, Why Black Men Choose White Women, and the book Nigga Please. These books have raised eyebrows across the country. She has authored 21 books and published 350 titles for authors nationwide. Check Dr. Rosie out at drrosie.com for her books, articles, and archives of her internet talk show. Sit at the feet of wisdom. Dr. Milligan is indeed a timekeeper and scorekeeper. She is the clock, calendar, and almanac for Black America. You need to hear her.
Good morning, top of the morning in sunny and rainy California. Yes, it's sunny, and yes, it's raining. You're listening to the Express Yourself Hour. I am your host, Dr. Rosie Milligan, coming to you live as we always do with nothing but straight talk. That's what we do, nothing but straight talk. My co-hosts are the wonderful Mr. Keith Swanson. We called him the Invisible Man. You know how that is. People still looking for him. They said, does Keith really exist? I said, yes, he really does. And he's going to be coming out soon, you guys. So just look out for him. He was in before COVID, still been in, but he said he's getting ready to come out now. So we're looking forward to that. Keith, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. They said they're going to convert me into a non-fungible token, an NFT, so and sell me off at auction.
Well, that's gonna be worth millions, maybe billions.
Maybe we need to sell some stock on that.
I'm gonna be the first bidder on that.
Yeah, we need to have some stock. You guys, and I know Keith is rolling. I'm sure he made a lot of money this weekend off the Super Bowl. I know Shawannah made some. She probably rented a tent and rented it to people. She found a way to make some money. I'm telling you. I know you didn't miss the Super Bowl, so you'll tell me about that later. You guys, and my other co-host is Shawannah Bourdonnais. She's a real estate guru, buys, sells. She does anything to houses. And she's an author, help people to get their life in balance, not just making resolution and talking about what they're going to do, but she helped them to do what they really want to do. In fact, at the top of the show, Shawannah, why don't you just go ahead and give them your contact information for those people out there who want to buy a house, want to sell a house. Just talk to me. And how are you this morning?
I'll do that. How you doing, Dr. Rosie and
Good.
Mr. Keith? Mr.
Yes,
Keith, the Invisible Man.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Shawannah Bourdonnais. My phone number is 818-201-6565. Once again, that number is 818-201-6565. Whatever real estate needs you have, if you are in foreclosure or if a person has passed away, or if you just want to sell your property or whatever you want to do, or you want to buy a piece of property, or you need just help with your property, you have a question, please don't hesitate to call me. I am here, and I will help you with whatever your real estate needs are. And also, if you want to join me in one of my visualization workshops for life transformation, you can do that as well. Again, my phone number is 818-201-6565. Thank you, Dr. Rosie.
Wonderful, thank you. And we'll have you to give that again. Today, following the Super Bowl, you guys, the home of the Rams.
Whoa!
People were shooting firecrackers. I thought it was the 4th of July.
They did that.
Oh, man. I am so glad they won. After all the money they spent, I'd say it would have been tragic if they lost. I'm glad they won.
Yeah. And
oh, my God. I was saying that would have been tragic. Did you see that catch? Did you see that catch?
I saw the catch.
And snatched it from the air. I said, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I don't even watch football. But this time I watched it, and I was screaming. I was so excited. I was like, yes, yes, yes.
You want to know what I did?
What'd you do, Dr. Rosie?
You tell me what you did.
I didn't do nothing because they were making the money and I was not. So for all those who out there hooping and hollering, I want to know how much went in your pocketbook, your bank account. Y'all better celebrate.
Yeah, but the thing is that because I've been doing this with the Lakers over the last 10 years, I've been looking at less about what's about the product on the field, which is the entertainment, and looking at what goes on behind the scenes and how they market the teams and how they get the advertisers, how they build real estate around it, how they build a whole entertainment complex around a particular entity, like the Rams, or the same thing they did with the Lakers in downtown. The Lakers almost by themselves transformed downtown just by moving from Inglewood to the Staples Centers. They almost by their lonesome transformed downtown, the downtown area. So the thing is, I've been looking at the business aspect versus the product on the field, which is the entertainment. So it's really interesting to see how it works behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think today our topic could be no more timely than what it is today. I'm telling you, we have a timely topic. And today we're going to take a close-up look at why deserving black players are not in the Hall of Fame. Is it about race or economics?
Both.
Wow. Well, my guest today, I'm getting feedback. I'm trying to wonder if that's from the cell phone.
It could be.
Are you all hearing feedback?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, your voice sounds a little different this time.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a speaker on in the background or something.
Not for me.
Okay. How about is our guest? Does he have speakers on in the background?
Mr. Curry.
Yes.
Is your speaker? Do you have a speaker on?
I did. Can you hear me? Is it a little better now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's where it's coming from.
That's good. Okay. So my guest today we're talking about a close-up look at why deserving black players are not in the Hall of Fame. Is it about race or economics? My guest today is actually one who's been studying about this for a long time. In fact, he have a book that's over 1,800 so pages. He has done his homework, Mr. Sheldon Curry. He's a graduate of UCLA with a BA degree in political science and an MA degree in urban planning. He has held many prestigious positions at the city of Inglewood. He debuts a timely piece of literary work called Tell Me Again, Why These Mostly Black Players Are Not in the Hall of Fame. Is it racial? Well, his finger is on the pulse of what's really happening in the sports world. So today, he's going to talk to us about what he knows about his research, taking a look at the Hall of Fame. Who's there, who's not there, and why. So first, he's going to take a few minutes, then he's going to set the precedent as to what brought him to write this book, or give us a little bit of overview so if we get into questions and answers and him talking later, we'll have a more in-depth insight about his book. So, Mr. Curry, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Milligan, and to your guests, Mr. Swanson, Ms. Bordenay, thank you for having me. Glad to be here. What I'd like to do is, it's a little bit more lengthy than I wanted, but I think it will give you and your audience an idea of the gist of the book, but also it will speak somewhat to your topic today and hopefully my contribution to it. The excerpt is from one of my chapters that I titled for the BBWAA, which is the Baseball Writers Association of America. Only elite black players need apply, and then I finish it by saying, for the Veterans Committee, black folks can take a hike. And so in this chapter, I have a subsection, and I call it, Some May Remain Silent for Fear of Consequences. So if you can bear with me, I think this will set the tone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Good.
Okay.
Yes.
The reality of society minimizing racism, frequently accompanied by some of the derisive comments I spoke of earlier, results in leaving the arena to properly address racial inequities, bias, and discrimination to those who have the ability and the wherewithal and sometimes the necessary resources to withstand the criticism that will likely come their way. For many, discussions of racism are forbidden. For others, it is a very, very thorny issue. If and when addressed, it is typically not conducted in a serious or comprehensive manner and is usually watered down, ensuring that any attempt at honest and constructive discussion is AWOL. And frequently it is approached in a perfunctory fashion. Then, once this perfunctory approach is completed, the attitude often is, from white America, so there, now I'm done, deal with it. However, I'm going to be brutally honest in my assessment of the Hall of Fame results. There are a disproportionate number of white people, some likely well-intentioned, that either don't understand what goes on or have their heads in the sand and seemingly will not take an objective look at this issue or its impacts. Furthermore, I realize this is the type of issue that will likely place a lot of those well-intentioned people in an awkward position. Though I offered no excuses in advance for the positions I hold, I recognize there may be those who would like to speak to the issues I raise, but don't want to ruffle any feathers. I maintain you get little discussion about bias from ball players, not because there is none, but due to other considerations going on simultaneously. For some former ball players who may have a stake in the game, that is, being a serious Hall of Fame candidate, they're not likely to verbalize much for fear it may hurt their Hall of Fame chances, because they know, as I do, that addressing it will generally not be well received. Another is undoubtedly financial. Speaking out may have an impact on their ability to continue making a living via their employment with their ball club or the number of outlets and entities that conduct card signings and memorabilia-related events. This possible harm might keep them silent, as is likely with any number of folks who may typically be past their optimal earning prime. Thirdly, though important to fans and those involved are impacted by Cooperstown considerations, and clearly the players, Hall of Fame issues are not a life and death circumstance. And so those who may be affected or care like I do run the risk of appearing to take a non-life and death issue too seriously when there are more important, serious or life and death issues that one can get immersed in. Unfortunately, that latter consideration contributes to and continues to bias more than one may think. Let me see if I can come up with an analogy, maybe not the best one, but one that will make my point clearer. It's like when a person owes you money, but you're hesitant to ever ask for it because you don't want to appear to be putting pressure on that individual. We can all relate to that. Generally, this approach of the good deed lender is done out of a sense of support, fairness, civility, humanity, and kindness. However, on the other side, the person borrowing the money has no sense of urgency to pay you back, and as time passes, uses your goodwill and civility, and you're not asking for your money, against you. Now, this might not be truly analogous, but hopefully you get the point. Whether cognizant of bias or not, I believe the Hall of Fame structure and its voting arms generally don't take bias and racial issues that seriously. Considering the studies that seem to indicate, erroneously so, that racism is not an issue, along with players likely hesitant to speak out for financial considerations or other reasons, including the possibility of ridicule and the bad, bully right wing constantly coming down on anybody that tries to address injustice, all combine to keep this inequity alive and well. Unfortunately and sadly, many may not have the wherewithal or appetite to address this issue. In summary, black players or proponents for black players are in a catch-22. They are in a quandary. If they spill the beans and speak out on the issue to be perceived as sour grapes as well as possibly affect their income stream. If they don't speak out, then many will opine that there is no issue. My take is the no racism proponents would quickly grab onto the latter. And then I want to complete the excerpt. I have another subtitle called Don't Get It Twisted. And don't think the possible adverse consequences of addressing wrongs is not ever present, particularly if one attempts to address racial wrongs. Sports and everyday life are filled with courageous black people who took a stand fighting injustice who saw their reputations, careers, and frequently their livelihoods damaged, if not ended, for taking principled stands to address societal wrongs. Of course, there are differing degrees of issues and stances, as well as some principled folks being more well-known than others. Yet all who stood up were courageous in doing so. There are a number in sports who have stood up and personally sacrificed to address injustice. A few who come to mind are boxing legend Muhammad Ali, former NBA sharpshooter Craig Hodges, and NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Most are aware of the sacrifices and trials and tribulations Ali faced standing up for his beliefs and his opposition to the Vietnam War and racial injustice, as well as more recently Kaepernick, who lost his career for taking his courageous stand opposing racial injustice in this country. Lesser known is Hodges, who consistently spoke out in varying degrees about issues and injustices occurring in society, and once penned a letter to President George H.W. Bush outlining discrimination in the United States and requested that his administration address the issues and concerns of black communities. He presented that letter to the president's staff at a ceremony where President Bush hosted the Chicago Bulls after their NBA championship for the 1991 season. Following the 91-92 season, Hodges never played in the NBA again. What the three men did and stood for, when they did it, and what transpired after they did what they did continues to provide historical context on a number of levels and raises the question of how far has this country truly progressed. Ali, Hodges, and Kaepernick's initial or strongest stances came in the 1960s, 1990s, and 2010s, respectively. They are athletes from three different major sports, three distinct eras, held three different levels of status of celebrity within their arenas, and certainly different levels in greater society. But what remained constant over a period of approximately 50 years from Ali to Kaepernick is standing up for justice had a cost. And since that period arguably represents the most hopeful time for black folks in the United States as it relates to the advent of laws to foster equality and better opportunity, along with the sense that better days would lie ahead, it provides a cautionary tale, not unlike much that has transpired throughout the history for many people who stood up and sacrificed, many that sacrificed more than the subject three, many who gave up their lives. And lastly, what is always interesting or remarkable, maybe more accurately hypocritical, is none of these three men asked for anything but justice and fairness. They didn't harm anyone. They didn't threaten anyone. They operated in a civil, nonviolent manner, yet paid a strong price. Again, more food for thought. And thank you for allowing me to read those excerpts, Dr. Milligan and company.
I think that was very important because that kind of gives us an overall glimpse and the premise of where you were coming from. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a call on hold. A call, just hold on because we're going to come to you in a few minutes. But what I'm hearing is when we say the silence of the players, this kind of sounds like sharecropping, sounds like a new form of what you call sophisticated form of slavery to me. I don't know what it sounds like to you guys. And until people speak out, we can always be in this hole like this. I know there was things that wasn't favorable to those who did speak out, but I think the more we speak out and the time that some of the others join those who speak out, I mean, we can cripple this country in sports. But back again, finance, economics, I don't care when anybody say economic is at the root of all of this because people want to make sure they stay in that big house that they bought, which is 20 rooms, and they continue to have those 7 and 8 cars, the Bentley and all those cars. Until we stop chasing everything that the white man build or make or put on the market, we're going to always be sold down to slavery because we have to bow down to those dollars that they're giving us. That's just my little piece of saying. And we're going to come back and I'm going to ask Mr. Curry. I'm really proud of you. I really am. I know how long you worked on this book, and it was definite by purpose because it wasn't like for economic gain. I think you wanted to leave something for us to chew off for the rest of our life and try to make some changes and really look at it differently, because many times we get so excited we see one in the Hall of Fame. Well, we got one on TV. We're so happy to be the first and to be the first one, and we should never, at this point in stage, we should never be excited about the first one. It took too long to get the first one. It needs to be more than just that one. Let me take a call, because she may be at work, and holding on, and then we're going to come back, and Keith, we're going to explore this topic with Mr. Curry. Caller, go ahead, and you can open your mic and give us your name and tell us where you're calling from. Go ahead, caller.
Caller? I guess
going once, going twice? Okay, the caller might just want to hold. Okay. So it's interesting. Well, you basically kind of told us the catalyst and the motivation that led you to write this book. I think that was included in your mini dissertation. What do you think, Mr. Curry?
Oh yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I think the reason I actually wrote the book, obviously I was been a fan and kept up with it, and over the years I just noticed that these disparities got greater and greater and greater. And just like in all arenas, we need to be present and prescient in every arena that we can be. And if we don't speak to the issues, who will? And so that's what kind of was my motivation. And if though there are several things that I address and several things that I discuss in the book, I think the dominant theme is clearly the mission of several deserving black players in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's the biggest thing, and there are a number of problems with that.
Okay. The caller we had holding is from area code 813. So, caller, if you care to chime in, open your mic, and we'll take your question or your comment. Okay, so I have a question here. In your book, you state that it is for a 20-year period from 1999 to 2019. If repeated going forward, you say we won't see another black player inducted until 2039. Explain that.
Yeah, let me provide an audience with the context. Obviously, I spent 9 years writing the book, and the information showing all the disparities in the voting were through the December 2019 Veterans Committee election. I'm sorry, December 2019 Veterans Committee election. So up until that point in the history of the Veterans Committee, which is the second arm of the Hall of Fame, they give it the second chance arm for the Hall of Fame. Only four black people, period, had ever been inducted by the Veterans Committee from the major leagues. And from 1999 to basically 2019, it was zero. And so that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, was just incredibly ridiculous what was going on. Now, in 2019, finally, two did get elected, Harold Baines and Lee Smith, which brought the number to 4. So it effectively doesn't change my opinion on the things in my book. It was about time. And then this past December, there were 2 more put in. I and many others have been writing letters to the Hall of Fame, and I don't know if that made a difference, but I think they finally paid some attention. But even with the 2 that were elected in December 2021, there's only been 6 former major leaguers ever inducted by the Veterans Committee. So to answer, when I said the 20-year period, I was basically repeating forward that if the same thing happened from 2019 to 2039, we wouldn't have seen another black player inducted, because I was highlighting the 20-year dearth of black people being elected before that. So it's a step in the right direction, but it's still woefully there. Just too many still are not getting seated. And the other problem is that so many of them are older and are dying. Dick Allen, who is just a travesty, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He just passed in the fall of 2020, 78 years old. Maury Wills, who should have been in the Hall of Fame 30 years ago, will be 90 years old this in October. So, I mean, they're passing away. They're not getting seated. And there's a financial circumstance with the Baseball Hall of Fame. When when you become a Hall of Famer, beyond your legacy and all that being greater, your value as a person, as an entity, goes exponentially up. Your speaking appearance fees, you're signing your memorabilia, caps and jerseys and gloves and anything that you sign, that you signings, autograph signings, baseball cards, can go up anywhere from 100 to 400 or 500%. So this is clearly a financial issue also. And so a lot of the black players, and I want to be clear, I wasn't criticizing black folks not speaking out. I was speaking more specifically in that section to older black players who are past their obviously they're not playing. Some of them are not even in the game, hoping to get in the Hall of Fame. And so I was just kind of speculating that some just don't say much with the hope that they will get in. Not everybody now. I don't want to cast aspersions, because these are strong black people who, a lot of them took chances. But that's the reality. So you take someone like Tony Oliva, who just elected 2 months ago, who should have been in 30 years ago. He's 82 years old, and I guess he has some perfunctory job at the Minnesota Twins. He's been very gracious. He's never complained, but privately, I'm just going to say it for him. I know it has just made him so upset, and he finally got in. But think of all the money he has lost. He should have been in the Hall of Fame 30 years ago. So I don't know if that answers what you asked me. I got off on a tangent a little bit, but it doesn't change the premise of my book. It doesn't change my opinions. It's just a small step in the right direction. But we've seen this before. You know, we've seen it with the Academy Awards, where they have a year or two where a black actor might win an Oscar, and then we won't see it for a while. So I want to see everybody that should be feted, FETED, get their just due.
Wow, that my father would call that hush up appointment. 803, I think you join us again. If you want to chime in, you can. Those who wish to join us, I got so involved in the conversation, I forgot to give the number out again. That number is 310-928-7733. 310-928-7733. If you at work and you don't want anybody around you hearing your conversation, you can email us here at innerlight, INNER, innerlightradio@yahoo.com. Keith, I know you burning to jump in here.
Yeah, especially baseball. Baseball is really, really a very stodgy old sport, especially when it comes to stats and who gets in the Hall of Fame. And it's controlled by a lot of old white writers that really determine who gets in and who doesn't. So, and they want to see their own inside baseball, right? Because baseball was one of the few sports that hasn't been completely taken over by black people or others. And so it's an old dinosaur. So I understand about baseball. Okay, in other sports it's different, but baseball is baseball is still a throwback to almost like the 40s. It's really difficult to change baseball. So I understand. So like you said, a lot of black players should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago, and it's very difficult to actually move them, especially. It's really frustrating, which is why baseball is starting to slowly but surely lose its fan base, is because they won't move, because they won't upgrade their thinking, they won't move with the times, because the fan base is more female fan base is more Hispanic and black than it used to be. It used to be like 80% white, and now it's more closer to 50-50. So that's why they're losing their viewership, their money that they're actually getting is going down. So they're gonna have to upgrade themselves. So hopefully they will have learned from their past, and maybe the money will move them, because the other, it's like the NFL, the NBA, and other sports have they move with the money. Baseball is one of those sports that really doesn't.
But they say, Keith, follow the money.
they're supposed to follow the money, but baseball is one of the few that has stuck to its guns. It's very difficult to move baseball. Stats, the way the game is played. Baseball wants to stay back when Babe Ruth was playing back in the 1920s. They really do. Because anytime they look back, that's where they want to stay.
Keith, it's interesting. We were getting this topic together, and Mr. Curry mentioned to me, because I added, is it about race, racial? That was his point of view, and I added to that economics. Because and so he said, sure, we want to go with the economics. I said, yes, because everything in this country is driven by economics. And most things are. Yeah, so I think I can see why it is, because it's the question here I had for them. So why is it important to be in the Hall of Fame? And I think he basically elaborated on it. He may want to elaborate more when he talked about all the economy that comes from being in the Hall of Fame. It's enough money to come from being in the Hall of Fame to raise the whole community out of poverty. We have people who are doing the right thing about the money that they earn versus spending it all with white folks,
Right.
If they do the right thing, scholarships to black college, to students from single parenting. There's so many things. If they do the right thing from a continent standpoint, and I believe many of them will, because a lot of our people, celebrities who have gained and access into finance, they have done things. They have given money to schools, built schools, and they really have. I look at all the stuff that LeBron James did, for his hometown. So when black folks are able to tap into the economy, they can change lives and change lives of their community.
It's worth billions. It's worth sports. If marketed right, sports is actually propaganda in entertainment, right? And if it's marketed right, it's worth billions. So LeBron James is going to be a billionaire. Okay, Kobe Bryant was, when he died. If he hadn't died when he died, Kobe Bryant probably could have been worth like $100 billion. So it's worth a lot of money. It's because the certain games go global. They're not just local. It's they're actually marketed to 8 billion people. So basically it's the entertainment and the politics and the propaganda that sports pushes is global, which is why baseball really wants to stay white. They've been trying to make baseball stay white over the last 60 years. Okay, really since Curt Flood actually broke the line, right, by actually getting baseball players more pay by basically boycotting. He actually took Major League Baseball to court. But the thing is, nobody talks about Curt Flood. Okay, Curt Flood,
if I may, Curt Flood is one of the 13 major leaguers I profile in the book, so I think your point's well taken. He effectively gave up his career. His last full season was 69. At the time that he challenged, and even though he actually lost at the Supreme Court, that the average major league salary when Curt Flood made his challenge was $19,000. Last year, the average major league salary was $4.4 million. The minimum salary when Curt Flood made that challenge was $10,000. The minimum salary last year in Major League Baseball was $570,000. And so, obviously, Curt Flood should be in the Hall of Fame not only for his playing exploits, but his groundbreaking stance off the field. He gave up his career. His last full season was 31. He was out of the game at 33, and he never got a penny. And he should clearly be seated. And the last thing I'll say, his cohort in that, Marvin Miller, many people may know his labor background. He finally was put in the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, several years after he died.
Wow.
So there's no way that he can be in. Boyd Kuhn, who was a quasi-racist, is in, and Curt Flood is not in the Hall of Fame. So I'm glad you mentioned Curt Flood.
Yeah. Baseball really is. With baseball, it really is more about propaganda and making. There's two sports that they're still what they call majority white. That's hockey and baseball. And baseball has stuck to its guns by trying to keep that sport white. And the Hall of Fame is just a reflection of it.
Mr. Curry, I had a question I would ask you. Why is it important to be in the Hall of Fame? I think you basically answered it when you talked about all the different featured economy that can come from being in there. Did you want to elaborate any more on the importance of being in the Hall of Fame? And, you know, me, I'm so black to the bone that I'm always looking at how can it help black folks? How can it help our race? And I can see that clearly. So that's why I tie racial and economic. I believe if economic were not the piece, many white folks who think the way they think, they wouldn't even think that way. It's all about holding on to the money. You know, I don't want to share it. If you get too much, they know money gives you power. So if you get power, then you can eventually have your economic could be your equalizer. And I'm not trying to make you equal to me and set it to table with me and my kids and my offspring, because somebody got to be at the bottom for somebody to be at the top. That's just my little Southern, my Mississippi thought and draw on that. So you can elaborate on that if, you know, I'm not trying to, I don't want people on my show to feel like they have to deal with the racial thing, because a lot of people have issues because they feel like, well, I don't know what I may get involved in, and somebody may hear this show. Black folks scared of every damn thing. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know what may have my kids may reap the repercussion from what I said today. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Mr. Curry, you might guess. Go for it.
Dr. Milligan, no, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to preface. I think, I think, unfortunately, though we live in a world where there's a lot of different opinions, I think if recent events in the last 3 or 4 years haven't taught us anything, is that we're as a community, as a people, we're going to have to stand up, and we have to be out there. We have to put our best foot forward, because it's not going to happen the other way. So I think critical issues need to be addressed, whether it's race or anything. And so I think, it's always interesting where folks will say, well, they're always talking about race. It's race about it. No, they make it about race, given how they treat us. Mm-hmm. And so I think we got to stop running away from things that they're doing to us. We're just trying to do better. Now, to answer your question, why is it important to be in the Hall of Fame? I did speak to it, but you're very astute. There's some things I could add, and I will. And I'll start out by saying that, you know, there's so many issues in society that are critical to the lives of millions of people. And so, again, an honor like membership in the Hall of Fame, some could question, because, again, as I mentioned before, about, well, it's not life and death. But to me, it's a simple answer. I think it begins with folks need to be properly recognized for what they do. It's the just and right thing to do, period. Secondly, when we don't receive acknowledgement and the recognition, or when people don't receive that recognition due them, what happens? It has an adverse ripple effect on society as a whole. We see it all the time. And this is particularly true for people from a racial ethnic group like black folks that have been oppressed and persecuted. So when folks from those groups don't receive the proper recognition, the feeding that others receive, then it makes it much easier for the racists and others who are opposed to that group to then spew all those negative stereotypes and characterizations and have those particular negative views have a lasting impact. We see it all the time. So black people have a history of being unfairly vilified, while at the same time we see our accomplishments minimized. So be it whether we're talking about the Hall of Fame, which is, again, as I said before, is not a life and death entity, or getting Employee of the Year, or getting any number of acknowledgments for things that we should do. The lack of getting that acknowledgement is a material issue, and it makes it very difficult for affected folks to overcome and make progress. So baseball, like every other segment of society, demonized black people as a justification for their outright discrimination. We have to remember that. They demonize black people as a justification for their outright discrimination. Mm-hmm. So I think Mr. Swanson hit it on the nose. It's not much of a leap to believe that the entities that spoke negatively of a race of people, and in this case, the Hall of Fame or the lack of acknowledgement, will execute or has executed a heinous discriminatory practice that banned that same race for decades, and that's what baseball did. It justified us not playing, saying we couldn't play, that we didn't have and then you could just pick one, the intellect, the comportment, the whatever. That's why they said we couldn't play. But when we got in the game, we dominated. And that's something that nobody talks about. I mean, you have to acknowledge it in the NFL. You have to acknowledge it because you see the numbers. But one of the things that when I look at everything that's going on in this country right now about all this stuff, one of the things I think is black excellence has bothered a lot of people because when they see people of color getting in even a half of an opportunity, we have always done well. And I don't care from Tiddlywinks to President of the United States, whether we're talking about sports, the economy, whatever we're talking about, we do well when we get an opportunity. And so when you look at baseball, back to Mr. Swanson's comment, as soon as black folks got a chance to play, they dominated, even though we didn't have a lot of people. You go back, Jackie Robinson, for all his pioneering efforts and all the great things he did, he was a tremendous baseball player. And that almost gets lost because of everything that he meant to black folks in this country in general. Willie Mays is probably, him and Henry Aaron, we can debate, are they the greatest players that ever lived? You think about white society, kept black people out of the game, and then in 47, Jackie went through hell to play. Dobie comes in the American League in 47, joined by Campanella in 48, and Don Newcomb. And 51, here comes Willie Mays, 53, Ernie Banks, 54, Henry Aaron, 55, Roberto Clemente, 56, Frank Robinson. And what do all they have in common? Dominated the game. And so that has to have a psychological effect on the folks who've kept us out. Mm-hmm. And so this whole notion about the Hall of Fame is important because they can't keep those folk out. People say, well, your book may not mean much because Frank Robinson and Henry Aaron in the Hall of Fame. And all I tell a modern-day person is, well, that's like if Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan went in the Basketball Hall of Fame, you'd look like an idiot. And so so the elite are going to get in the Hall of Fame, but it's the guys that are right under the elite, the second chance veterans committee, and that's where the racism is playing out front and center, and it has an economic base. So basically what I just want to say is that, or conclude here, is just say that the failure to appropriately honor people for their achievements plays right into this narrative that they are not as good or worthy. And that's important. And you see it in baseball. And it becomes very easy to omit, exclude, and eventually justify bias and discrimination. And so I would just conclude that by saying that, these folk who spew these supremacy views relative to other groups, even though there's nothing superior about it, is unfounded and has no basis in fact. The bottom line is that we should be feted for what we do, period. Right. Just like we should be paid a proper wage. I don't care, across the board, we should get our just due. So the Baseball Hall of Fame is just a microcosm of that, period.
Exactly. Okay, let me give the number out again. The caller number is 310-928-7733. 310-928-7733. We have a lot of listeners, and I say maybe they just want to get the information because giving out so much, maybe that's why they're not calling. They're just listening. And it's important for us to be in certain positions because when other people anoint black folks, that's when black folk begin to look up to their own people. They're waiting for the white man to anoint them, to appoint them. Mr. Curry, I remember that being so in the publishing industry years ago. They kept a lot of black writers kind of down because people were saying, well, if you're not published by a major publishing house, nobody want to buy a book by a self-published author. That was never the truth because when people walk into a store to buy a book, I've never had anybody ask me, where are the books by Random House? No, they're looking for a good book and a good time. They don't give a heck who published that book. And there's been so many things that they said we couldn't do. They said black folk couldn't fly, didn't they? And I think a little black girl out of Compton, California flew around the country, didn't she, Keith, a few years ago? A teenager, okay?
Bessie Coleman.
Yes, they said black folks couldn't be good quarterbacks. Didn't Doug Williams, was he the one who
won a Super Bowl, yeah.
So if we listen to the chatter, I mean, what can black folks do? but they've done everything. So that's why this type of show, Mr. Curry, that's why your book is so important. It reminds us to continue to fight, to not just to sit on the sideline, because I believe the fact that in many instances, when people cannot fight for themselves, it becomes our responsibility to recognize those people, and we need to ask the question, why aren't they there? I think that's the part that we're going to have to adopt, that sometimes when people in position, you have to fight for them. When they're in the inside and they don't want to lose their job, they need to feed the information to somebody on the outside, and then we need to fight for that issue. So I hope that resonate in someone's spirit, that we need to fight. We know they should be there. Then speak up and speak out.
We had a caller from caller on 323.
Yes.
You want to chime in?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Sylvia, and I'm calling from Riverside County.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. What's your take?
Good to hear from you.
Oh, good to hear from you too, Dr. Rosie. I was just listening, and I was just thinking, why is it that we as a nation of people always have to wait for mankind to put us somewhere where we need to really be? Why can't we do that for ourselves as a people? We is enough of us. We could raise enough money to build our very own personal Hall of Fame for people that we know, that we honor, and that have done things that we appreciate. And I just think that we should do that as a people, as opposed to waiting for mankind to build something for us or to make us special when we are already special and we know it ourselves. So
I like the way you use the word mankind instead of just saying the white man. It's the white man, Sylvia. That's who we're waiting on. So don't be trying to skirt around talking about some mankind, the white man. Okay, that's what we talk. But Sylvia, you raised a good point.
But I call him.
You're right.
Okay, but I call them mankind because they're not really. We're man. They're men. They're kind of like man, and that's why I call them mankind.
But they're not kind. Man. They're not kind, some of them. So don't even put kind on it, Sylvia. Okay.
Okay.
But Sylvia,
Dr. Milliken, could I chime in?
Yes, go ahead. You're my guest.
Yeah, I think the caller's comments were very, very good. I just want to add that, and I think this is where a lot of the discussions that we have about the conditions that we're faced have to be nuanced. In that, I don't think, and I'll speak for like something like the Hall of Fame. No one is suggesting that other avenues can't be created. As a matter of fact, other avenues have been created. Some of you may be aware that there is the baseball, the Negro League Museum, and there are honors and things that are done in different ways in different places around the country. I think the bigger issue here is getting our just due, because here's the thing. It's not about waiting for anybody to do anything. The best way I can say this is, if I spend my tax dollars and my tax dollars is not coming back to my community, it'd be nice. We can still think about building our own somewhere else, but as long as we're part of this structure, we need to make sure we get our fair share. And that's what I'll say. So I don't disagree at all with the caller, but I think that these are nuanced things, and these are the positions we've been placed in. And I will say most progressive, forward-thinking black folks that I know, and the people throughout history, no one ever waits around. We're doing the best that we can within this, and we want to make sure we get our just desserts.
And Sylvia, to that, since you mentioned that, even if we establish something of our own where we were honoring those who we thought should be honored in the Black Hall of Fame for the sports, they would still fight. What did Carter G. Woodson say? If you make a man feel inferior, you don't have to tell him to go to the back door. Or you don't have to. If there is no back door, he'll make one for himself. Until we can get the mindset right on our people who feel more worthy because they are anointed by white people, I'm wondering how much interest, would they care about being in the Hall of Fame that we create, they will still fight to get into the main Hall of Fame. So what we have to do, those who are not treated fairly, I would say that in any of these arenas, they need to bring out area. They need to bring that awareness. Shawannah, I think your mic is open. They need to bring that to somebody who can fight for them. Because I know sometimes they don't want to give up their house, their family, and all this kind of stuff. But we got to find ways to get it to the community where they can fight. So, Sylvia, I appreciate your call. You're always on the money. Sylvia is the author of the book, To Help Heal. What's the author? Herbs that help you heal.
Herbs to help you heal.
Folks, you need that right now. You need that right now. I'm telling you, she have healed herself from major disorders, and she knows what she's talking about. Herbs to help you feel. If you're out there listening, Sylvia, give them your number, because this is a time like never before that it needs to happen. I'm telling you, because people don't realize alternatives to medicine. I had a sister who, Sylvia, was in Atlanta, who had COVID and pneumonia, was on oxygen, went home on oxygen, went to her doctor, and she said, well, why are you on the oxygen? She said, well, I had COVID and they put me on it. What's your oxygen concentration? She said, 97. Well, you don't need to be on that oxygen. She said, but when I get up and walking around, it drops down to 92. Oh, well, you need to stay on that oxygen. So the doctor didn't even ask the question that she should have asked as to, but anyway, I sent her some product, and in 4 days, she's off the oxygen. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Oh, did you get it from the book?
I didn't get it from the book, but I got some of the herbs from the book, but the oxygen pulled her out. But what you have in your book is what I'm recommending to people.
That's what I meant.
I'm recommending your herbs. Yes.
That's what I was trying to ask.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, this morning I got up this morning and Spirit said, okay, well, I'm going to start putting up on Facebook or wherever an ailment for the week. And I decided that this coming every Monday I'll start a different ailment, and this Monday maybe I'll start with the immune system and give all of the information on how to keep the immune system intact.
Good. Now, great.
And next week maybe the prostate.
Give us your phone number, how they can reach you, and then I'm gonna have to come back to my guest because we're getting close to the end of the show. Give them how they can reach you, Sylvia.
323-365-4021. I'll repeat it. It's 323-365-4021. Thank you for letting me vent.
Thank you so much. Always.
And may God bless your guests. Okay. Thank you, too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go back. Shawannah. Is Shawannah still on with us? She haven't said a word.
Dr. Rosie.
I guess because we're not talking about...
Yolanda came in and she was listening to the radio show. Yolanda, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Dr. Rosie. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Very good. Nice to hear your voice.
Yours, too. We got to keep in touch.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Mr. Curry, you want to give us some final remarks? I'm really excited. I don't know about you guys. Shawannah, you guys are excited about this book. Now, we warn you.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited.
It's 1,800 pages.
Wow.
It's 9 years of work.
Wow.
I remember when I said, Mr. Curry, you need to make...
pages. Wow.
I said, you need to make 2 volumes, but he got it all in one. I'm telling you.
Okay.
He should have did part 1, part 2, and part 3.
And part 3. Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
you Negro never would have read the whole thing. Okay, I know y'all. Okay, no, he did the right
Part 1,
thing.
part 2, and part 3. You know what? I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to our people, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, all of them, and Mary J. that showed up at the Super Bowl, because they're doing exactly what we're talking about doing, where we're bringing the blacks, where we're helping each other and helping our businesses grow, because nobody really noticed it. But in the background, as they were performing, they had the company that they used to perform at that brought them to where they are today. And also the hamburger stand, all of that stuff. And so many people have flocked to those businesses. And I think that was really, really brilliant. And it was great for helping those businesses grow. And that's what we need to do as a Black community. We need to help each other. We need to support one another, and we need to be there for one another. And we need to acknowledge when we do it. We need to acknowledge when we do it.
And you need to bring your Black self right on down to 1425 West Manchester Avenue, Suite B in Los Angeles, California, and get your living trust and get your will.
Get in there. Oh, you talking to me, huh?
I'm talking to you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Okay. So you guys. So, Mr. Curry, I want to hear some more from you because I can get on and on with this. They better get to 1425. You guys read the headline, different stuff about Wendy Williams and her power of attorney and all this kind of stuff. Folk, y'all better get this stuff together because you're talking about economics. You're losing it because you're not taking care of your business. So, Mr. Curry, I'm not going to get off on the soap opera. I'm going to get back to you. Tell us what we really need to do. How can we get this book? What do you want us to do? What is the plan of action once we get all this good information that you have given us? What do you want us to do?
Yeah, well, again, I'll say the title. It's called "Tell Me Again Why These Mostly Black Players Are Not in the Hall of Fame. Is It Racial?" It's 1,853 pages. It's both. There's a lot of information in there and references to non-sports because I made an attempt to show how baseball and Mr. Swanson said it very well is a stodgy old conservative, and it's a place and it's a microcosm of American society. And I want to really say this real quickly if I can. When I started writing the book in 2012, it was during the last year of President Obama's first term in office. And, there was a lot of stuff bandied about we were in a post-racial period, which I didn't believe, but so many people did. So I felt it was very important if I was going to deliver a book like this that I had to try to give a lot of examples for maybe more of the present day folk who may not have shared that view. To say, hey, there's a lot of things going wrong outside of the sports world, and particularly inside of it. So many people say that sports is a meritocracy, and I think even that can be questioned. Going forward, I have some limited copies. I'm hoping to have this ready on an ebook in the next few months, and also an audio book. And so I'm hoping by the end of the spring, early summer, I'll have it ready for public consumption. If anybody wants to communicate with me and I can give them a better timeline, they can reach me at sccurry@aol.com, or they can write me at Sheldon Curry, 6709 La Tierra Boulevard, number 166, LA 90045.
Repeat all of that.
You should repeat that one more time. You should repeat that one more time.
The address?
Both.
Okay. They can reach me if you want to send me an email. It's sccurry@aol.com, or they can write me Sheldon Curry, 6709 La Tierra Boulevard, Box 166, LA 90045, and I'll get back to you and give you a better idea about when the book will be available to the public. And the last thing I'd like to say, Dr. Rosie, and I really appreciate you having me on. For those who are into statistics and all that other stuff, there's plenty of that in here. So it's something in there for everybody. And the last thing I'll say, and Dr. Rosie, you said it very well, I set out to, the reason why I did it in the way that I did it, I know it's a niche book. I know it's not a book for everybody, but for those who are going to take the time or care about the topic, I want something to be around maybe 40, 50 years from now, because I profiled, if you include the Negro League players, almost 30 players, and I'm willing to bet you that most of those will still be on the outside looking in, and maybe somebody can pick up from what I've done and might help contribute to this. So again, Dr. Rosie and your guest, I thank you very much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
Okay, I have one quick question to see if you can answer on the board. You can quickly answer. So can the guest talk about the potential economic impact of Hank Aaron, Jim Brown, Michael Jordan, Will Chamberlain, and Magic Johnson. That's from Frank Jackson via Facebook.
You say the economic impact?
Yes. Of Hank Aaron, Jim Brown, Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Frank. Oh, that's from Frank Jackson from Facebook.
Well, obviously, I mean, we start with Michael because he was in a different era. He was in the era of, you had these major sports networks like ESPN. Prior to the maybe mid to late 70s, he didn't have that arena. So he was a global icon. The reason why he's become a billionaire, everybody around him made a lot of money because he was a tremendous player, an excellent businessman. And so his impact on the game is, they've done studies. It's been billions of dollars. Before him, of course, Magic. A lot of times people talk about Magic and Bird when they came in the NBA in the 79-80 season. David Stern was the commissioner, and the NBA took off. But let me say this: when you go back to the Jim Browns and the Wilt Chamberlains, they didn't mention Elgin Baylor, Henry Aaron, their impact beyond the economic was that they were excellent. Particularly Aaron, he was regal, and they set the standard for those to follow. They obviously had an impact. They were highly paid players for their eras. It helped move the game forward. And so you don't have Jordan and Magic if you don't have Wilt Chamberlain. You don't have the present-day NFL if you don't have Jim Brown and Gil Sayers and those folks. So I think I would look at it that way. I would need a lot more time to get into the nuance. I think I could answer some of those questions at another time, but that's where I'll leave it for right now.
All right. Well, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you, Mr. Curry, for coming on our show and giving us all this great information. And I hope we will do something with it. You have enlightened us. You have enhanced us to feel better about ourselves and to do more, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. And most of all, to pass knowledge down to our next generation. We all can share this information with our children. Because we tend to feel like if this person who looks like me can do it, I can do it. That's why you see a lot of young blacks. They want to do sports or they want to sing because this is where they have seen successful people and people making a lot of money. And I think people are driven about economics. So they want to be in a field where they can make a lot of money. So they see it in sports. In other words, they see those people. They don't see the engineer. They don't see the doctor. That's why the Black Business Expo that Barbara Lindsay, founder of, was so important because they got a chance to see these people, see doctors, see lawyers, see engineers. So when they see people who look like them doing something, making money, then that's what they tend to want to be. So now you can look at, they want to be a ball player, they want to be in the entertainment industry, or they want to be a preacher. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Check it out, and you can see it for yourself. But they see preachers drive big cars, they see them make money. So people want to be where the money is, folks. So we need to show them there's many ways to do it. So, Mr. Curry, thank you so much. Keith, as always, Valley Girls. Where's my Valley Girl? Valley Girl, give your information out so they can run up in there and buy a house.
Are you speaking to me, Dr. Rosie?
You the Valley Girl.
Yes, girl. Yes. Shawannah, give me a call if you're looking to buy a house, if you're looking to sell a piece of property, if you're just looking for some real estate questions that you need answered, you need help with whatever it is that you need, probate, selling of properties, buying of properties, call me. My number is 818. Get a pen, everyone. Get a pen while I'm saying this. 818-201-6565. Once again, I'm going to repeat it one more time, 818-201-6565. And I'm waiting right here by the phone for you.
Oh, I like that. Wait about it.
Yes,
love
indeed.
it. I love it. And you guys give me a call.
I can vouch for that.
She's waiting by the phone.
You know that, right, Keith? I'm right here.
You can email me at Dr. Rosie, D-R-A, R-O-S-I-E at AOL.com. I'm old school, just like Mr. Curry. D-R-A, R-O-S-I-E at AOL.com. And I will email you the link to my Stay Home Zoom Living Trust Power of Attorney Zoom seminar this Wednesday. Email me and I'll send you the link. Okay, you guys have a great day as you be on your way. This show is going to re-air for those who didn't get a chance to listen. You guys let them know they can go to innerlightradio.com and they can at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will hear this show all over again. You guys be blessed, and pass.
Thank you, Dr. Milligan. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr. Rosie. I love you.
Love you.